Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So the long awaited for mini book tutorial is finally here. So I wanted to try and get this done by the Easter weekend because I am having a 50% off sale in my Etsy shop. So if you would like to buy this kit, it is literally 50% off along with literally everything else in my Etsy shop right now. So my store is linked below in the description, and the direct link for this kit is also in there as well. So let's get started. These are the finished pieces. So this is what you're going to end up with. So inside you've got all the pages, so these are the ones that I've inked, so you can see that there's a lot of inking on in there. These ones I haven't inked, so they're a bit more clean, but obviously you can see that there's a difference between where I've chopped the pages and not inked it and where I've inked them. So I think what I probably will be doing is going back through these and inking them just to kind of get rid of that white edge. The pack that you'll buy consists of 2 images and the instructions. So the 2 files that you will receive are, one is book pages and one is book covers, spines and end papers. So I would recommend printing your book covers page on something that's about 160 GSM or higher. So cardstock, or something that you're familiar with, something that you're happy to work with. I just personally use 160 GSM, and then for the book pages I've used just literally standard copy paper, 80 GSM. So 80 GSM I've got there and 160 for there, so literally just I've doubled it. You don't have to go for that specific size, just use what you've got. If you don't have anything other than copy paper, then you can just literally print out 2 copies of this and stick them together, and that'll make the book cover a lot sturdier. So within the pack there is basically 4 versions of the book pages. Now the book pages are exactly the same on every single one. The only difference is the background colour. So you can see here, you can see those 2 designs are consistent throughout. So it's the same one, it's just purely because, if you can see, there are some very, very fine lines between each page. And obviously with the tea-dyed one, they're almost invisible. And then depending on what kind of inking you want to do, what kind of style you want your book pages to look like, this, the darker the colour that you use, the more likely you're not going to see them. On the front ends, and obviously just in between where I've cut, you can just kind of see slightly the line there. And then on the edges you can tell that those are white papers. And then this is an example of the brown papers. So it's not a massive difference, but this one is darker, and it's just really an option if you didn't want to ink them, really. But obviously because of where you're chopping, you are still going to have the white edge unless you're using a different coloured paper altogether. So maybe if it's a tea-dyed paper or something like that, then that might work for that. For the book pages, so there's 4 versions of that. And then the same situation here, so the book covers, again, exactly the same, it's just purely the fact that I've changed the background colour. So you only get 1 design in the book, in the mini book kit. It's just got 4 different background colours just for your crafting purposes, so you don't obviously have to print them all out, you just literally print the colour that you actually want. When you're printing, I would recommend that if you want to do all 3 book covers, so there are 3 on here with 3 lots of spines and 3 end papers, so per each book you need 2 of these book pages, and that's what gives you this thickness. So when you've got the book cover folded, that fits in there nice and snug. Obviously I've got a bulldog clip over that so you can't see exactly, but it fits nice and snug. If you only have half of that, you're going to have a lot of gap here, so it's your choice. My recommendation is 2 of these per book cover, so if you print 1 of these out on cardstock, I would print 6 of these out on copy paper, and then you can kind of get cracking with the books. So for the instructions that I've included in there, so I've explained basically what I've just said to you about the printing, the equipment that you do need and equipment that I would recommend using. I will have a link for my tutorial, well, the video that you're watching right now here, and then this is where the instructions start. So I've included images as I've gone through the construction, and it's, like I say, you know, it's not massively complicated, it's just literally page and a bit, and that's mostly because there's pictures, just because I felt like I maybe wasn't explaining it well enough in words, so I've used images. Okay, so let's get cracking with the tutorial. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is cut out your book pages. So I've put directional arrows with scissors on to show you that you need to cut in rows. Do not cut down in columns, you need to cut across in rows. So obviously when you're cutting this out, you're probably going to just cut this block out, but it's going to be very clear that, you know, the line, you've got a lion right there, so as long as that lion is the right way up, you need to be cutting above his head and below his feet, not by his face and his bum. Hopefully, if that helps you. So yeah, so just literally pop it in your paper trimmer if you've got one, or just get your scissors and just chop that up. So I'm not going to do all this on camera, I'm just going to cut the strips out and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I have now cut these out, and you now have 5 strips of book pages here, your actual papers. So you've got your back side, which is just white or whatever colour paper you've printed on, and then you've got your print on the front. So you want to do this as like a harmonica fold. So using the line, which is why I've left a slightly thin line, is so that you've got a fold line there. So you can see that I've just folded it straight on that line. Once you fold it in the end, you're going to fold that forward. So again, using that next line, and then fold it down, and then fold it back. And again, using that fold line just to make sure and check that you are lined up with the paper. Forward again, and backwards again. So that you end up with a W with extra arms, basically. So you've got all of your printed papers folded on the front and all of your white on the back. So you need to do that for all of your sheets. I'm just going to show you the glue in. So for this part I use a Pritt stick, so I just recommend like a basic stick glue if you've got one, or just, you know, anything that you use for gluing paper together. I think PVA is probably going to be a little bit too wet, but obviously if you want warped looking pages, then that's absolutely fine. So literally you will not glue any of the printed side, you are just going to glue the white side. So you just want to glue one side of the fold and fold it, another side of the fold and fold it, and another side of the fold and fold it. So I'll just show you. So one of the easiest ways I found to do this is starting with the end. So I've just glued that end, and then I'm just going to press that together, and then you've got this end. So I'm flipping the paper over and I'm just gluing this end, and then so you've got your 2 pages at the ends glued in, and then you've got this back. So again, just probably fold one over so you don't end up gluing the actual paper. And then just fold that in. So you've got that glued, and then you've got your end pieces glued in. So it just leaves you with no more white pages and just the printed on each side like a little book. Okay, so then you need to do that with all of the pages. You do need to try and burnish this with a bone folder if you've got one, just to make sure it's folded nicely and it's stuck. But I mean, obviously if you guys are crafters, then you probably do know how to do that anyway, but just in case there's any newbies amongst you, that's what you need to do, just to make sure, because look, that's now a lot flatter. They're a lot, you know, they're perfectly together now because I've burnished it with the bone folder. Say at this point, this is where you would start inking. So for me, I personally use Distress ink. So they look pretty cool, to be honest. So then you want to end up with a set of these, so you're going to have 10 of these little bits. And as if by magic, here's my 10. So then you just need to make sure that you've got them the right way up. So I know that the text is not really readable, but there's usually an image somewhere to show you what's upright and what's not. I'll be honest, this one throws me quite a lot, and I tend to put it like that because I feel like you'd expect the image to be at the top, but you can, if I have that in frame, you can just see that there is a little bit of text, and that means that the picture is that way up. And then there's also, you've got something else in there and a few other images to just kind of, and I feel like you can just, even though you can't read the text, you can kind of tell the orientation of it. So then just collect your pages, make sure that your folded backs are all at the back. So you've got basically a white side, and then you've got a side of whichever coloured background page you went for. So these are my tea-dyed papers. So then what you want to do is just literally grab them, make sure they're all ready. So you've inked them at this point, you've cut them, you've glued them, and then just pop them in a binder clip and just keep them to one side until you're ready. So to show you, so you've done 1, cut up the book pages into strips, 2, fold into an accordion style, which is that image there, 3, glue all of the white side down, and then I just mentioned there that if you do want to ink, this is where you need to get that done. So we're moving on to the book covers. You just literally cut out those 3. These are 3 individual pieces. I've put them closely together so that you don't have to trim. The same with the book covers, the same with the pages and everything else. I've just put them really close so you can just do one cut and then you don't have to trim it off at the edges. So you'll end up with 3 end papers, 3 book covers, and 3, 6, 9 spines separately cut out. Okay, so this is what you should be left with. So you should have 1 end paper per book, 1 book cover per book, and 3 spines per book, and in total 9 spines, 3 end papers, and 3 covers. So the first thing that you need to do is fold the spine. So just to show you the spines on each of these, so because they're quite dark, obviously you can adjust your printer settings as you like, but I wanted to keep these quite dark. So on the blue one, so you can see just there is a tiny little notch, and that indicates where the spine starts. So you want to fold just where that is, and the same on that side, and the same at the top and the bottom. The brown one, so that's pretty clear where the spine is, so it's just going to be either side of the dark spine. And then with the red one, so it's probably not picking up amazingly on camera, but you've obviously got the moons going down the centre, and you can just about see that there is a line that goes down each side so you can fold the spine. So I'll fold on the brown one because I feel like that's easier for you to see. And I'm going to burnish that as well. Okay, so now you've got your book shape. So this is step 2 on here, is to fold the cover. So you don't need to fold the end paper at this point, you just need to fold the book cover. So now this is an optional step, you don't have to do this, but I have made these into charms by adding an eyelet on the top there. So if you take your 3 spine pieces, and then what you'll need to do is just put them together doesn't really matter which way they're facing, and then just make sure that they are completely lined up on one edge. And then if you've got like a clip or something, or a paper clip or anything like that, just clip it on one side so you've got it held, and it's just honestly a lot easier. Grab your book cover and just see if you can get that into the spine. So mine isn't quite going in there. So what you then need to do is just chop off the tiniest little bit, because you want to try and keep this as wide as you possibly can. Okay, so that fits in, that's quite snug. The next thing that you'll want to do, so keep one of the spines out of the way, so that's purely just there for another optional step, which I'll show you in a minute. So what you then need to do is glue these two together. So I'm just going to literally run a line of art glitter glue down there and pop the other spine on. So you want to glue them so that they are back to back, and you can obviously burnish it if you want to, just to spread the glue out a little bit. Now just double check that that does fit in still, and that fits in there nice and snug, so you can see just there that that fits in. So now what you should do, if you are inking your book cover, you should ink this now, and you only need to ink just the very, very, very top. So basically just the depth of an eyelet, essentially. So do the same on both sides. And then whatever kind of hole punch or eyelet setter or whatever you've got, just grab that. And now obviously if you've got this particular crocodile, there's a small one, and that would be the ideal one to use, but I do not have little eyelets, so I've only got the big ones, so I have to use this one, which is a little bit of a nightmare with this particular project because it's almost the width of the actual spine, so this can get a little bit fiddly. So if you're like me and are trying to use what you've got instead of buying new craft supplies, just try and line it up as best you can. Look inside so you can see where the cutting is going to be, see that you've got enough space. It is also a good idea to let the glue dry before you start this, because obviously if it's not dry the pages might warp and bend together and end up kind of looking like that. But to be fair, it's not really that bad, because once the eyelet's actually in there you can't really tell anything. So pop an eyelet in and then just set your eyelet as you normally would do. I probably do squeeze this a little bit too hard, to be honest, but and then there we go, so you've got your eyelet. So what you can do, and I have started to try and just kind of try this out a little bit, so here you can see that I have cut off the ends, so it is just on the actual charm. So that's your difference basically, so whatever you want to do there. And then the next optional step, so what you need to do is decide which way you want your eyelet to be facing the spine. So do you want like the messier side to be this side with the pages and have the neater side out? That's my personal preference. I just think because it's a charm, that's probably what you're going to see more. So what if you have decided it to be this way or whichever way, make sure that the side you want pressed into that spine is the side that you add the ridges to, which is the next optional step. Again, you don't have to do this. This is just a choice. So this is why there's a third spine. So all you need to do is cut out 6. You can use 8 if you want to. I did try 8, didn't really look like a great deal of difference between, but you want to just cut roughly out 6 1/8 of an inch pieces, very roughly an 1/8 of an inch. You know, you don't need to measure it and mark it or anything like that. You just need 6 semi-even pieces. You can make them a bit bigger if you want to. It's just purely whatever you feel would look nicest underneath. So what you need to do is get them roughly in like a thickness size. So you want your widest ones to kind of go down first, and then your thinner ones to go down on the very top. So I'm just gonna glue these on. It doesn't matter which way they go on. I want the smooth side of the eyelet to be against the spine, which means I need to glue the ridges onto that side of the spine, because that's what's going to be pressing into the book cover. And then what you need to do is grab your book cover, and obviously this is the wrong side, but just place it in there so you can see roughly where that is going to sit. So you're only going to want the eyelet to be visible there, and then you want to put in your next ridge roughly, so about the same distance as you've got at the bottom. You want about the same distance from the eyelet, so you want to put that roughly about there. So you've got two spines. Obviously that does look pretty horrendous, I'll be honest. So now you want to glue this into the book cover. So you want your ridges to be going onto the book cover, okay? So that they actually show through. So you don't have to use art glitter glue, that's what I'm using. You can use literally whatever you want to use, whatever your normal glue is. So make sure you've just got a bit, you know, around the actual ridges and things so that you can actually really press that in there. So make sure your book is the correct way up, and then just pop that into the spine of the book. Press it in, so just try and work it in there a little bit, and then you can grab your bone folder, and please be really gentle when you do this. This might just be my cardstock, might not be the best quality possibly, I don't know, but whenever I've tried to do this I tend to rip the paper a little bit. So all I'm doing is just very, very gently just kind of filing that on the edges of those ridges, just so that they're nice and clear. That's what the ridges look like there. So now the next part is to glue your end paper into the book cover, so that then covers the spine. So that's literally just a very simple process of pop some glue onto your end paper. Now this one is slightly directional. I mean, for me, I prefer it that way. You might maybe prefer it that way, I'm not sure, but I think it looks best that way personally. And then just try and line up your edges before you start pressing in, because if you do sort of need to trim anything, you just need to be really, really careful not to trim too much, just because obviously it will, the more you trim off, the more likely your pages might kind of stick out of the cover of the book. There isn't a lot of wiggle room with it. So I'm just going to file very gently down the side, so just burnishing there, and then just making sure that the glue is spread, and again burnish just a little bit down the spine, just gently, and then just spreading it out. And then again I'm just going to gently burnish the ridges again, just to kind of really make them stand out. Now you can see that I have failed massively on making my edges meet up, so I'm going to have to trim that off. Obviously if it's just a very thin bit, then you can just ink it and then it won't be noticeable. So that is now your book cover, which I've got glue all over. So you've got your ridges, you've got your charm. Those are the two additional steps that you don't have to do, they're just optional. And then the book cover and the end paper are the two main steps that you need to do. So once you've got your book cover ready to go, and you've got your binder clip of pages, so you've checked that these are all completely in the correct order, ready to go. So just make sure that the white side, so the back end, I mean you might have inked this anyway, but you want to make sure that your pages are the correct way for going into a book. So this is the way that they're going to go in. So you need to make sure that you've got these clipped here. So I'm just going to straighten these up again. Pop your binder clip on just to make it, honestly, just make life easier for yourself. And then just grab, so I use 3-in-1, Beacon 3-in-1. It's basically Fabri-Tac, but there's obviously, you're aware of whatever glue works best for you. And then all you want to do is just apply some of this glue to the spine. And then grab your book. So make sure you've definitely got them the right way up, and then pop them against the spine there and close the book. So the pages will, they don't, you know, there's a little bit of room at the top and a little bit of room at the bottom. Basically, I didn't do anything else other than I'd glued in that the pages into the book. I got them into a position that I was happy with, and then I just simply put my binder clip back on and then just flip that over, and then you just need to leave that for, I personally would leave it for about 12 hours, so just overnight really. And then once you're done, you'll be left with this glorious little mini book. Obviously you can be as creative as you want to, like if you want to add in a little arm to go over as a fastener, or you could add a little bookmark or something. But yeah, that is literally your mini book tutorial. So the next one that I'll be doing for you is how to make the book page charms with the wire wrapped around them. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you now have a plethora of mini books for you to play with and add to your junk journals and make charms with and things like that. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and thank you very much for watching. If you could please leave me a like, and I'd love reading your comments, so please feel free to leave a comment there for me as well. Alright, thanks guys, bye!